So here is Ted Lieu. This is from, I think, a couple years ago when they were they had the head of Google in front of them, and they didn't. And this is what happened. He did an interview afterwards. It's going to be interesting for two reasons. Here we go.
Have you thought that maybe you and other Democrats have missed opportunities to use your time to press Google's CEO at a time when these large tech companies are struggling to manage content, perpetuating conspiracy theories? They're so vulnerable to outside interference. Isn't that a focus that could have been a missed opportunity?
So what this news reporter is saying to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, I think what she's saying to him is, didn't you miss this opportunity to lean and pressure the head of Google to censor more? Didn't you miss that opportunity? Because what he did in that hearing was show that Google was being even-handed with Republicans and Democrats. That was his point. And she's saying, don't you think you should have pressured him to censor more? That's what she's saying, right, Nick?
This is essentially what CNN has done with Ukraine as well, where you have the unhinged Biden administration and the Democratic Party, and they will say, why are you not sending more weapons?
That's right.
How can Biden send more? And that's what they're doing here, where Ted Lieu is already an unhinged authoritarian who's against free speech, but CNN still wants him to go further than that. So in this society, we don't have media that questions politicians. We have them that edge them on. Why don't you be more corrupt?
That's right.
Why don't you be more authoritarian? So that's what we see here. But go ahead, Jimmy.
That's exactly right. And now watch Ted Lieu's answer to this.
So it's a very good point you make. I would love if I could have more than 5 minutes to question witnesses. Unfortunately, I don't get that opportunity. However,
here comes his manifesto.
I would love to be able to regulate the content of speech. The First Amendment prevents me from doing so.
Oh, Jesus. Are you serious?
I would love to control the speech of people in America. I would love to be an authoritarian. I would love to be the guy to decide what is okay to say and what isn't. That's what Ted Lieu just said. He's my congressman.
Those goddamn laws.
No, he's not my congressman. No, he's not. He's from my congressman is Schiff.
Judy. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, Judy. Yeah, that's right. Judy Chu. But anyway, so Ted Lieu, I got an award from him once, by the way. I won an award. They gave me a plaque from his office. So there he is saying, I'd love to. That's who he really is. And why do I bring this up? Because Ted Lieu just went and spread misinformation and tried to discredit a doctor on Twitter over COVID. And the irony is he wants to censor accurate information while he's spewing misinformation. So the people in control just want to be in control. It's got nothing to do with the accuracy of the information. It's got to do with they want to be able to control things and control the narrative. That's what this is about. If they can't control it through propaganda, then they have to use guns. Do you understand? That's why they use propaganda. And that's why I have to shut up people like this show and people like Nick and people like Glenn Greenwald and people like the Gray Zone. They don't have to shut up people. Anyway, no thinking that everyone. So this was the tweet. So this guy who's been on the show from Harvard said, thinking that everyone must be vaccinated is as scientifically flawed as thinking that nobody should. COVID vaccines are important for older, high-risk people and their caretakers. Those with prior natural infection do not need it, nor children. That's what he tweeted out. Now, again, we're not giving medical advice at this show. I have to say this, cover my ass, and that the vaccines are super safe and effective and will keep you from getting seriously ill or death, and that they will slow the spread and contraction of the virus. I have to tell you that. But this is what he said. This is for the news purposes, and that got called misleading. Jesus. That was called misleading, right? So that ended up in the Twitter files. So this guy who covered the Twitter files on COVID suppression tweeted this out. And he said, after Twitter took action, Kuldorf's tweet was slapped with a misleading label and all replies and likes were shut off, throttling the tweet's ability to be seen and shared by many people, the ostensible core function of the platform. So Ted Lieu retweets that. And what does Ted Lieu say? He says a bunch of lies that he got paid to tell from Big Pharma. This is just the other day. This just happened. He says, dear that guy, dear David Zweig, the journalist, the tweet you cite is in fact misleading. People of all ages at high risk from COVID generally benefit from vaccines. Do you see the mealy mouth language? We'll go over this language in a second, but this is unbelievable doublespeak he's using. Prior natural immunity may last only a few months. Well, does it? Or doesn't it? COVID appears. Well, does it or isn't it? It appears. It may. Generally. All these mealy mouth bullshit doublespeak words he's using. Because he's lying for Big Pharma. COVID appears to be a leading cause of death for children. Now, that is unbelievable medical misinformation. And in the old regime, he would have been suspended from Twitter for saying that. They would never have suspended him, believe me. But you're supposed to be if the rules were applied equally. And the whole point of these Twitter files is the rules weren't ever applied equally. And they still aren't being applied equally. So that's the biggest. These are lies. By the way, he's deleted this tweet. So this woman comes in and says, Ted, the preprint you linked to has actually been rewritten. So because he put a link in it. See the link? That's supposed to back up what he just said. Ted, the preprint you linked to has actually been rewritten as a result of my critique because it is seriously flawed and inaccurate. You linked to the old version. Just so, for children without a serious medical condition, the danger of severe COVID is so low as to be difficult to quantify. The risk of long COVID among children, a source of fear among many parents, is also very low. So low as you can't even quantify it. According to the CDC, among children, the mortality risk from COVID-19 is lower than from the flu. So when Ted Lieu tweets this out, that's 100% medical misinformation that he's doing at the behest of Big Pharma, because he's paid by Big Pharma, as the Democratic Party is. And he works for the Democratic Party. So let's look at all these. It says, people of all ages at high risk from COVID. Yes, at high risk. I mean, people who have cancer already and diabetes already and who are obese already. You mean those people? That's what. So now he's trying to make it look like all ages are equally. No. All ages at high risk. That's not what this is saying. So, and then they generally benefit from all this fucking bullshit. And then prior natural immunity may last. Of course, we know you get a natural immunity now when you catch COVID. And so he's trying to push that lie that you don't. And COVID appears to be leading cause of death in children. That's 100% falsehood, made up, 100%.
Okay, just so you know, that he took that tweet down, but he hasn't done the same tweet with new link.
Well, with a new link.
Yes. It's to a Bloomberg.com. COVID is way more lethal to kids than the flu.
Wow. Well, he's contradicting the CDC, and you're not allowed to do that on YouTube, that's for sure. You used to not. So Elon Musk jumped in and said Ted is linking to misleading data, and then he tags Community Notes, which they're a nonprofit organization that kind of polices Twitter and stuff like that for misleading data. So he jumped in on it. He jumped in on Ted Lieu. That was funny. I was happy to see that. Ted Lieu is finding out that the game is no longer rigged in his favor. So let me bring in Nick Cruz. Nick, what do you make of that Ted Lieu lying about COVID?
Do you remember when the Republican Party was considered the stupid people party?
Yep, remember that?
Now it's just the Democrats out in the open. You got Kamala Harris, sounds like she's drunk every single day. You got Pete Buttigieg, he getting clowned right now because he took maternity leave, and now there's a supply chain crisis. Now you have Ted Lieu, who's probably the dumbest of them all. Like when it comes to Russiagate, January 6th, I know you roasted him quite some time, but every single dumb, anti-intellectual argument that a Democrat can make, Ted Lieu is out there on the front line making it. And when you look at Ted Lieu, like even that tweet, there's zero chance he had anything to do with writing that. He had some staff that using no mealy mouth words or whatever. Because this dude is obviously dumb. Like when you hear him speak, there is no meritocracy in Congress. They just choose these people to be actors, and they just go along with the Democratic Party talking points. And that's what Ted Lieu is.
Again, it's just overwhelming that you can lie in one direction about COVID and the vaccines, but you can't tell the truth in the other direction. And my comedian friends should be upset about that. In fact, they're still not, because they're all a little bit too cowardly, and they all have less integrity than I thought. And they have zero nutsacks. And that's that. They're just not going to ever. They're just never going to tell you the truth about COVID. Whether it's on comedy club stage, whether it's on their YouTube shows, whether it's in their blogs, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook, they just don't have the balls to tell you the truth about COVID or even talk about it. They're just nutless wonders. It's amazing. It's amazing. They won't. When politicians are caught lying out in the open, they won't talk about it. They won't do a joke about it. They won't do a video about it. Nothing.
That's so wild, Jimmy. Because like the people I look up to was like the old Carlin days when you're supposed to poke at the establishment. You're like I'm not a comedy expert, but comedy is supposed to be the people poking up at power.
That's right.
Twisting the narratives, and that's the comedy I remember at least growing up in the 90s. I don't know if I got rose-tinted glasses looking back in nostalgia, but that's what comedy's supposed to be. Now all of them just go along with it. Like whenever I see comedian blue check Twitter people, they literally the most cringe repeating big pharma talking points. Like they're the first one who say, I got the vaccine, I got 2 jabs, but I got COVID again. I want to thank big pharma, even though your vaccine failed me. They're always the one front and center saying the dumbest stuff. So it's a shame how there's not that. Obviously, you're doing a good job with this, but not mainstream, edgy, anti-establishment, especially anti-democratic party comedy anymore. But go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, I can't say that the vaccine has failed, because the vaccine is safe and effective and will keep you from getting seriously ill or hospitalized or death, and it slows the contraction and the transmission of the virus. It's a fantastic vaccine. It's fantastic. We love them. It hasn't failed. People have said it failed, but that's not true. You try to talk bad about the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines in front of me, you're going to get a bloody lip. I'll tell you that, pal.
How dare you question Big Pharma? What are you, a right winger, Jimmy?
I get out of breath just thinking about the protection I'm getting from my new booster. That's what I'm out of breath about. I'm excited. Doing stand-up comedy in March 5th in Tempe, Arizona, March 25th in Palm Springs. April, we're going to Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Nashville, Tennessee. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all the tickets.